You wondering what's coming up for bourbon in 2025? We got some big things on the horizon, so should be fun to talk about. Welcome back to another edition of Bourbon Kingdom. I'm David.
And I'm Zach.
And today we are going to talk about 2025 and some cool stuff happening.
Yeah, so we've kind of been talking like some of the bad, like the bourbon boom coming to an end or crashing or whatever, jobs being laid off, people being laid off jobs and stuff like that. So we thought we'd kind of talk like potentially some good things.
Yeah, because there are good things. There's always good things.
There's always good. So
I'm a glass half full guy.
You're kind of the glass that's like, hey, is this mine? No? Good. I'd love to drink out of that.
Yeah, let me drink out of that glass. That looks fun.
But anyways, before we start, hit the like, subscribe, and notifications. Check us out on Patreon, podcast, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is, check us out on.
Yeah.
And then while we're sitting here trying to figure all this fun new stuff out, please put down in the comments below what you think are some new stuff coming, because maybe we forgot something. We are only going to talk about 3 things today, so it's going to be a quick one. But put down some things that you think will be good, or if you even disagree with us on some of these things.
Yeah.
Please let us know.
Yeah, for sure.
The first thing we're going to talk about is the obvious, which is going to be brand new bourbon that's going to be coming out this year. And the thing that kind of came to mind whenever I was thinking about it is like the Knob Creek single barrel picks. There's going to be cast strength now. Like something as simple as that.
Yeah.
Is going to be so exciting. I think obviously Penelope's going to come out with a whole bunch of new stuff. I just feel like they're always kind of cranking out new projects, new stuff, whatever. The Havana, I was going to say Havana Rumba, but I think it's just called Havana.
That is a good restaurant. If you're ever in the Louisville area, eat at Havana Rumba. It's really good Cuban food.
Not bad. There's a better one.
Yeah, there is a better one, but that one, that one is good though.
But anyways, I think there is a bunch of new bourbon that is coming out. Yes, there's always going to be the allocated stuff, and yes, the allocated stuff will be hard. But I think there's going to be new stuff like, for example,
the Four Rose single barrels.
And we haven't got a chance to review it yet.
Yeah.
But Four Roses just released these new single barrels, and they're 100 proof. They're like $56.
Yeah.
Really good price. I just think there's going to be some of that comes out. And I think these distilleries, Craft and Big Boy, are both going to have to produce new things to, make you, the consumer, happy to want to try new stuff.
I agree with that.
Dig into their own distillery.
Yeah. Because we've always said this, like, I think the best thing that 2 years ago, the best thing that happened for Bardstown was Bardstown expanded their bourbon collection to a cheaper, more approachable set of rye, Howie, all of these things that came over in the last 2 years that allowed people to drink their stuff on the lower end, and then probably in some ways made them more willing to go, oh, an allocated thing dropped. I know I like this, so let me go ahead and get that if I can. Yeah. So I always think it's good for distilleries to be able to push some lower tier stuff, some things that are just new, that are going to introduce them to that in a really good way, so that the demand for the higher stuff is there.
There's always going to be...
Buffalo Trace doesn't need that. Wild Turkey doesn't need that.
There are certain...
But they should still do it.
There are certain brands that you just can take out of the equation because, it just doesn't matter what they do. Yeah. Either we're going to buy it all up or they're not going to be able to keep it on shelves. So, I get it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think the brands that look at it from a standpoint of... And I talked about this in our video that we put out about... what bourbon brands need to do and with the bourbon crash and everything else, you still have to have some kind of limited release because those are really factoring in. You take Jack Daniels, for example. They didn't need to come out with Coy Hill last year.
No.
They're selling millions upon millions of cases of Old Number 7. However many cases they had, which was maybe 30-something thousand of the Coy Hill, that doesn't even factor into the margins of their final end of the year check sheet listing.
Yeah.
So, but what that does do, that's marketing. Same thing with Four Roses, for example. This is great. This is for the everyday drinker, everyday kind of consumer, but their LEs they need to do because that's marketing for them basically.
Yeah.
for better or worse. So,
and this is going to, again, this to me was a smart move because this also introduces, it's a lot like Old Forester does with their 100 proof allocated, and then their barrel strength single barrels. It allows you to kind of get the taste without necessarily the punch that's in there sometimes with their higher proof stuff.
Oh yeah,
so,
I totally agree.
Yeah.
All right, next thing on the list, we're gonna see higher age statements.
Yeah.
And we're not just going to see higher age, the talk of the town is Eagle Rare is going, there's going to be a 12-year, 95 proof.
Whenever that label dropped, I just started seeing people reposting it, this is interesting. This is interesting.
Man, you know what's crazy? I seen it on both sides where people were like, oh, this is cool. I'd love to see a little bit higher proof. Because, you live in the state of Kentucky and you've been to enough bottle shares. You've had cash strength Eagle Rare before.
What? No, we haven't.
Dave, we're just peeking behind the curtain. You've had it before, and we both know it's awesome. It's what it is.
I mean, if I would have had it, I would think that it was probably really good.
It's amazing. With that being said, the fact that they could just add a little bit more proof, I think that's gonna. I hope it's gonna make it better. I'm just saying that. But also seeing the other side of people, wanting to throw pitchforks and fires and rah. I can't believe they're just going to do this, and it's not really that much of a difference, and it's just another SKU and all this, basically complaining, right? And I won't say that people are invalid for that because to each is their own. Here's what I would rather say and see. I want there to be opportunity for more bourbon to be out there.
Yeah.
So regardless if it's hard to get or everyday stuff, I just want the opportunity for more of it. And I think it's not always the case, but a lot of times whenever stuff is aged up, it tends to be better. Now you can definitely overage something, because that causes more oak tannins and stuff like that. So I agree. But you take something I don't know, let's say Russell single barrels, for example. We've been critical of them over the last few years. And, we've seen a lot of 8 and 9 year olds. Wouldn't it be great just go back to double digits again, at least 10, 11 years old?
I have one that's almost 12 and I still nurse on that sucker because it's so good.
It's a banger. Yeah. The one from Silver Dollar.
Yep.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's so good.
So I think we'll see some older age statements. We already seen the Weller 18. Penelope's new American Light Whiskey is going to be 17 years old.
Yep.
So, and I know I'm talking about some of the special ones, but I also think within some of these blends from other places.
I'm just going to cross my fingers.
Oh, here we go.
This is not going to be a new bourbon, but boy, if you could bring that age statement back up. Come on, let's do this. Remus Repeal Reserve. A 13 or 14.
To be fair, they got a little older.
They did get a little bit older this year.
They did. So give them credit.
But I'm just saying, let's continue to creep that up there and allow that mix to be phenomenal.
I totally agree. And then I will say this though to be critical. Isn't the new Elijah Craig A25? Isn't that 10 years old?
I think so.
Yeah, you see me need to bump those numbers up. Yeah. And then lastly, and I touched on this in the video, but I want to go into more detail of it. These bourbon brands are going to start putting money into bourbon experiences.
Yeah, I think that's the natural evolution of this.
Yes.
Especially, we can argue if the boom is gone or not gone or whatever. There's some people who would say, no, it's not. People are still buying bourbon like crazy. Yes, bourbon is still being bought like crazy. But the evolution becomes experiences. Mm-hmm. And how can you make this super cool in some super cool way? And there are already some places that are doing it really well. Heaven Hill does it well.
Yeah.
Old Forester is doing it pretty good. Mm-hmm. Even though I still think some of their experiences could be a little bit better. They're at least offering experiences and stuff like that. We're going to one at Heaven Hill in a week and a.
Well, that's an event.
Yeah. But I'm just saying but those are still experiences in some ways.
No, that's a fair point. That's really fair.
And so doing some of that stuff, it just allows you to be endeared to the customer in a way that they're going to buy your product if they feel like the experiences have been awesome.
I cannot express to you, like Dave and I have been very fortunate since we started this channel, and we've got to meet and talk to a whole bunch of different distilleries. Brands that we don't even care for will reach out to us and be like, hey, we know you don't care for us, but we'd like to talk to you and just get your opinion, like pick your brain over what you're hearing and stuff like that. And what I've seen is there's really two types of brand thinking. It's like, we're going to keep doing what we do because that's how we've always done it, and this will work. And then the new one is, what do customers want? Mm-hmm. And I'm telling you guys, the brands that you're seeing that are growing and putting experiences out there for you, if it's either experience, like, you know, like we give a lot of credit to Barshine and Green River. They're putting experiences downtown Louisville. Pursuit United is. Whistle Pig just announced that they're going to put a spot downtown. I think that's actually going to do really well for them.
Heaven's Door is down there.
Heaven's Door just put their new place down there, which they have an amazing spot.
Whiskey Thief is down there now,
Whiskey Thief is down there.
Yeah.
Look, I get what you guys are saying. We're like, well, that's very Kentucky-centric. That's very Louisville-centric. I get what you're saying. You look at Nashville Barrel Company down there in Nashville, same thing. Like, they have this amazing experience in I think they actually have two spots now in downtown Nashville. I just talked to another brand the other day, who's a Tennessee brand, who's like, how do you think it would go if we went to like downtown Nashville? Like either on the main strip or on one of the sides. I'm like, well, you all have enough money because you guys are big enough to where I think if you all really want to do like a really good bar,
they would kill it.
They would crush it. Here's my point is, people are going to want to come to you, sure. But if you are like a brand or whatever, like, you know, you take somebody like this, right? Like 13th Colony, okay? Never been to their distillery, never seen their setup. But if you're not bringing people in, because you have such a popular name, your brand's doing really well, you still have to bring people in just to build that foundation of your people. Because, you know, us in Bourbon, like, we're very territorial. Like, we love what we love, and we don't like what we like, you know? But whenever you go somewhere and you have an amazing experience, like, for example, I had a really good experience here recently with doing Angel's Envy tasting. And I got to pick the brain of some people in Angel's Envy. Yeah. And just like, I got to try new products, and you couldn't make it that day. Yeah. That was, you know what I'm talking about now. Mm-hmm. And like, whenever I got to try some of their stuff, I'm like, man, why aren't you guys doing this? And they're like, that's a really good question. I don't know. You're like the fifth person. It's like, give me great feedback. I'm like, take that stuff to a whiskey festival, let people try it and get feedback from that. And they're like, that's a brilliant idea. Like, let the people kind of decide if this should be a thing, because they're already doing it, right? So I think there are brands who are really focused on people. And I think we're going to see more of that. Like, I think there are brands who are trying to figure out, how can we get to New York? How can we get to the West Coast? How can we go to these very big cities or where we have a big base at? And how can we do a lot of focus, you know, brand building there? And I think we're going to see some of that. I think you're going to see it here in Kentucky first, and then it will slowly spread out and kind of go from there. Yeah,
I think anything cool like pop-up events and stuff like that, they haven't had to do it, and so
exactly.
I think that's why they're like, why would we spend money in a way where we don't need to? But the truth is like, you want people to feel really good about your product.
Sure.
And what makes people feel better other than experiencing it and attaching your bourbon or your whiskey, your rye, to some experience that is like for lack of better terms, a core memory for you, and it's just going to be in there. Yeah. Shout out to Inside Out, that core memory, and so. But with that, it's seriously like, you tie those together, and you have a customer for life. Mm-hmm. And so.
Well, I
just think it's important.
You take somebody like Buffalo Trace. Buffalo Trace is the big dog here in the state. They don't really have to do anything. Like, they don't go to KBF. They only do Bourbon on the Banks because it's right next door to them. Yeah. And honestly, I kind of debate if they really want to do that at times. But like, they could go and take over any event space. They could go take over any festival. They could do whatever they want to. And you're right, they don't have to.
They should.
But they don't. But I mean, most people would say they're top 3, top 5. If not their favorite distillery.
Yeah.
And even if we're in whichever side of the product,
but that's all whiskey based. Like that's all bourbon based. Like
I agree.
From a taste perspective.
But here's my point. You even factor in them because like what you're saying, like they don't have to. For a long time, they didn't host events. And we've always kind of thought like they would host events better than anybody because they would pour the money into it.
And they do host good events.
And now they're doing it. And not only are they doing like top notch, like, they're doing really nice food and drinks and everything else, but then they're giving you bottles.
And they're giving you good bottles.
And they're giving you great bottles. Yeah. They're giving you BTAC. They're giving you, 18-year marriage. Yeah. They're giving you these crazy things. I'm like, how? Like, how? But, so my point is not every distillery has to do that, but the amount of goodwill in marketing, brand building, and loyal customers that you're building from that, it ain't going away anytime soon.
Yeah.
So.
Agree. Well, tell us what you think. Tell us what are some of the experiences that you really enjoy from some of the bourbon world. We'd love to hear those things and see if we have to go visit anywhere because we're missing out on something.
There's always something.
I'm sure there is. So, all right. Well, till the next time.
We'll see you.
We'll see you.